All right, boys, one of the best times of the year is right upon us. March Madness is over. The play-in tournament starts tomorrow. And by Friday, we will have our NBA 2025 playoff bracket completely set. So today in this video, we're going to go over everything you need to know for the NBA playoffs this year. If you're not someone who follows the NBA regular season closely and want to lock in for the playoffs, congrats, this video is for you. But it's also for the fan that just can't get enough of this NBA talk before the playoffs start. In these series today, I'll give you also at the end my prediction for each series. Let's get right into it with the Western Conference to start. And I'm just going by the series that I think are going to be the most fun to watch. So we're going to start out with the 3rd seeded Los Angeles Lakers versus the 6th seeded Minnesota Timberwolves. Of course, this is the marquee primetime matchup every night that they're going to play. This Saturday, they play game 1 at 8:30 p.m. Central. And these teams have history, or at least one player on the Lakers has history with this Timberwolves team, and that's Luka Doncic. Last year in the Western Conference Finals, he absolutely dominated Minnesota, including the game winner over Rudy Gobert in game 2. But we do have very short memories, and if you remember correctly, Minnesota kind of choked those first 2 games. Plus, we also do have to remember that the Lakers are still very much figuring out how to play with Luka Doncic versus Dallas's team last year was constructed perfectly around Luka Doncic. He does not have Daniel Gafford or Derek Lively as a lob threat on the Lakers, and these teams have played just one time since Luka's debut on February 10th for the Lakers. Anthony Edwards was ejected in the 3rd quarter of it. The Lakers won by 9, but the Timberwolves did not have Rudy Gobert or Julius Randle. So we truly just do not have a comp for this series as to how it's going to go. But what I will say is that the Lakers are 19-13 since acquiring Luka in February, with a net rating though of just 13, while the Wolves had a 6th best NBA net rating during that time period. However, Luka has played in just 28 of those games, and the Lakers are 18-10 in those, while averaging 28, 8, and 7. On the Lakers side, they obviously have 3 incredible offensive creators in Luka Doncic, LeBron James, and Austin Reeves. By the way, Austin Reeves has to be the best 3rd offensive option in the NBA. The Lakers are missing a true center. Jackson Hayes is about all they have, and he only plays about 19 minutes a night. So yes, the Lakers do not have any big men, and we'll talk about that a little bit in this series. However, even though they are small in the center department, they're big everywhere else. LeBron James is 6'8". Luka Doncic is 6'7". Austin Reeves is 6'5". Rui Hachimura is 6'8". Jared Vanderbilt, Dorian Finney-Smith, both 6'8". Everyone wants to talk about Rudy Gobert in this series, so let's talk about him a little bit. Rudy is having one of the best offensive stretches in his career over the last 10 games. He's averaging 18.8 points per game on 71% from the field, with 14.9 rebounds. And so Rudy Gobert has to punish the Lakers for not having a traditional big. I'm not too concerned with him defensively. A lot of people like to clown him, but honestly, Rudy holds up just fine on defense in the playoffs. Everyone likes to clown him for last year. Luka Doncic hit an amazing shot. Of course he did. That shot was deep. It was a step back. What was Rudy supposed to do? If you took a look at the net rating for Rudy in the playoffs last year, it was incredibly good. It was actually the best from a Timberwolves player. Rudy is going to be just fine even if the Lakers play this 5-out offense they like to play. However, the key to me is, can he punish them on the offensive end in the pick and roll and consistently score? Can he make JJ Redick play Jackson Hayes more like 30 minutes a game instead of that 20? That's going to be the key with Rudy Gobert. As for the other guys, Anthony Edwards, the youngest player ever in the league to lead in 3-point field goals. This is a statement series for Ant. He's just 23 years old. He's already won a couple playoff series, but this is the first time where he's going to have pressure on him whether he likes it or not. All right, boys, the play-in tournament is just days away, and these last couple teams in the West are fighting to get out of it, which is why today I've teamed up with DraftKings Sportsbook, and they have an amazing new customer offer for you. Bet just $5 and get $200 bonus bets instantly when you use code HARDWOOD at sign-up. Like I said, to claim this offer, all you have to do is download the DraftKings Sportsbook and use promo code HARDWOOD to sign up. Once you bet those those $5, get those $200 in bonus bets. You can use it on whatever you like. Same game parlays, regular parlays, straights, even some live betting or player props. And if sports betting is not available in your area, do not worry. DraftKings Pick 6 has you covered. You can win cash prizes. So don't miss out. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook now. Remember to use promo code Hardwood. Bet $5. Get $200 back in bonus bets. Thank you so much, DraftKings, for sponsoring this video. Let's get back into it. I'm sure JJ Redick is going to be blitzing him and allowing guys like Jaden McDaniels to shoot as many threes as he wants. Jaden has to knock them down, has to make them pay, but the Lakers do not have a rim protector or really a super elite on-ball defender to guard a guy like Anthony Edwards. I expect him to absolutely eat in this game. As for Julius Randle, are we finally going to get a normal Julius Randle in the playoffs, or is he going to once again shoot in like the 30s in field goal percentage? I'm also very intrigued by how the Wolves decide to defend the Lakers. I don't think Jaden McDaniels is very good at defending Luka Doncic anymore. I'd like to see someone like Anthony Edwards on him, but what if you get him in foul trouble? They tried it sometimes last year. You also have Nickeil Alexander-Walker. You have Jalen Clark off the bench. You even have guys like Julius Randle as well that probably going to guard LeBron, but do you put him on Luka? Probably not. So with that being said, this is going to be such a fun series, guys. Like I said, the Lakers have endless amounts of creators on their team, but the Wolves are the deeper team, and they also are one of just 4 teams in the NBA with a top 10 defensive and offensive net rating. I'm going to say the Lakers win this one, but I'm going to say in 7 games. And the only reason why I'm giving this to the Lakers, I really don't think that they're going to steamroll like a lot of people do. I think the Timberwolves are a lot better team than most do. However, it really just comes down to clutch time. Luka Doncic is one of the best clutch time players in the world. He destroyed the Wolves in the Western Conference Finals last year in the clutch, and I don't think getting rid of Karl-Anthony Towns is going to solve the Timberwolves clutch time woes that they have. Matter of fact, they've been just the 24th team in the NBA in the clutch this season, going 20-26. But that being said, I really do think the Timberwolves are going to be leading more often than not in this series. I just think in the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter, they're not going to execute, and Luka's going to take over alongside LeBron and Austin Reeves, stealing a couple games and advancing to the Western Conference semis. All right, we spent too long on that first series. We got to talk Clippers Nuggets next. The 4-seeded Denver Nuggets versus the 5th-seeded Los Angeles Clippers. The Denver Nuggets not on the greatest trajectory to end the season. They barely hold on to that 4 seed after firing Michael Malone, their head coach, and general manager Calvin Booth just a short 6 days ago. But they did finish the season on a slightly higher note, winning a huge game against the Memphis Grizzlies and defeating a full-strength Houston Rockets teams, absolutely dismantling them. Nikola Jokic becomes just the 3rd player in NBA history to average a triple-double this year, averaging 29.6 points per game, 12.7 rebounds, and 10.2 assists, all the while shooting 41.7% from 3. Obviously, Nikola Jokic is the best player in this series, but the Clippers are one of the hottest teams in the NBA right now. They're 17-3 in their last 20 games, which puts them right alongside the Boston Celtics and the Oklahoma City Thunder. They were picked to be at the bottom of the Western Conference this year. They let Paul George walk for nothing in free agency and instead just signed a couple relatively small signings in some defenders, Chris Dunn and Derrick Jones Jr., who've turned out to be phenomenal for them. But it's not just that. Of course, Kawhi Leonard, since returning in early January, has really looked the part, looked like his old self. They've gone 26-11 with Kawhi this year in his 37 games. But James Harden also. James Harden does not get enough credit for how good he still is at 35 years old. He averaged 22.8 points per game this year, 8.7 assists, and 5.8 rebounds. Norman Powell has been awesome, especially stepping up in Kawhi's absence for the first part of the year. But lastly, Zubac may be the most improved player in the NBA this year. He has been absolutely unbelievable. 16.8 points per game, 12.6 rebounds on 62.8% from the field. The defense has been impeccable. He definitely has a chance at an all-defensive team. Plus, they have one of the smartest coaches in the NBA in Ty Lue. So according to this series, what are the keys here? Well, first of all, is Jamal Murray going to be fully healthy? Can they get that Jamal Murray from 2 years ago in the playoffs when the Denver Nuggets won the entire NBA championship? Or are they going to get a Jamal Murray like last year who had a banged up calf and just was a tad too slow? Zubac actually does a pretty decent job at making Jokic work, but can Jokic get him in foul trouble, play him off the floor a little bit just due to strictly foul trouble? Aaron Gordon actually shouldn't do too bad of a job on Kawhi Leonard in this series, but at the end of the day, I just don't think Denver has enough outside of Nikola Jokic to be able to compete with the Clippers. I got the Clippers winning this series in 6, and to be honest, guys, I don't think it matters if Jokic averages 35 points in this series. I just don't think it's enough on the offensive end. Jamal Murray has to average 25. I think it's probably what it comes down to. What Jamal Murray are you going to get in this series? Because the Clippers have multiple defenders they can throw at you, and they also have multiple options offensively, multiple creators they can go to. In James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, of course, Norman Powell can get a bucket. I'm taking the Clippers in this one. Let's move on to our next Western Conference matchup, which we actually don't know yet because tomorrow is the beginning of the play-in tournament. But I'm just going to assume that the Warriors beat the Grizzlies and they get the 7 seed. So we'll have Houston versus Golden State. The Warriors are 23-8 since acquiring Jimmy Butler around the trade deadline. Steph Curry is still Steph Curry. He's unbelievable. And what's even more interesting is that Jimmy Butler's from Houston. He's returning to his hometown, and these two teams play completely different. The Rockets are big and defensive, and the Golden State Warriors play a ton of small ball. But Golden State's been there. Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green. I love the Houston Rockets. I think they're going to be good for years to come. However, there's something about getting there and being the favorite in your first time in the playoffs that just has a ton of pressure on it. Plus, the Houston Rockets don't really have one guy that I just trust to be a creator when the offense gets stagnant in a playoff series. I'm taking the Warriors in this one. I'm taking them in 6. But I will say, if Houston can figure out that double big look with Alperen Şengün and Steven Adams, it could give the Warriors some trouble. I just don't think their wings or their guards are going to be able to knock down enough shots. But I absolutely could be proven wrong, and don't get upset with me, Houston fans. I love Houston, and honestly, I'm cheering for them. Lastly, in the West, you have the Oklahoma City Thunder versus, I'm going to go out on a limb and say the Dallas Mavericks. I'm going to say that AD carries Dallas over the Kings in the 10-9 play-in game, and then the Grizzlies are just a deflated balloon and carries them there as well. So I'm going to say Dallas. I'm going to say OKC sweeps them, and we'll talk more about OKC going into the Western Conference semis. But this is a generational team. This is a generational defense with an incredible creator engine on the offensive end in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. If he wins it, the rightful MVP. I just don't want to do a deep dive on them right now because they're going to handle their first round opponent, and we can get into them in their next matchup in the second round. So let's head over to the East and let's wrap this video up. You got Knicks Pistons. My thoughts here are pretty much, can we get a Karl Anthony Towns playoffs? It looks a lot more like last year before the Dallas series than everything else we've seen from him in the playoffs in the past. Because honestly, Detroit does not have an answer for Karl Anthony Towns if he's playing his game. And then on the defensive end, they have so many different guys they can throw at Cade Cunningham. Of course, with Detroit, it's just an incredible story. They're even here at this point. Nobody expected it. Cade Cunningham was crapped on for like the first 3 years of his NBA career, even though he was in an awful situation. And he's proven this year he is that superstar that people thought he could be when he was drafted. Malik Beasley had an incredible regular season, just barely loses the 3-point crown to Anthony Edwards. With that being said, the Knicks are just too good. They're going to beat the Pistons in 6 games here. And like I said, they have guys to throw at Jalen Brunson, but they don't have an answer for Karl Anthony Towns, and especially in round 1, I think Cat's going to have a good game. Do I trust him against the Celtics in the semis? Not necessarily, but in round 1, I trust Cat to take advantage of this matchup and eat Knicks in 6. Next up, we have the Indiana Pacers, the 4 seed, versus the Milwaukee Bucks, the 5 seed. I'm assuming Damian Lillard does not play in this game. He's been out for quite some time now with a blood clot. And with that being said, I don't see how Milwaukee is able to keep up with Indiana. Indiana has so many guys that they can just throw at you, that they can run at you. Tyrese Halliburton has been phenomenal ever since his beginning of the year shooting woes. We would really need one of the greatest playoff performances of all time from Giannis in order for the Milwaukee Bucks to win this one. The Kyle Kuzma trade just has not worked out for Milwaukee. Of course, this entire series changes if Damian Lillard is playing, but assuming he's not, which is what it looks like right now, Indiana's going to win this one, I think, in 5 games. Okay, I'm doing some research, and Shams did put out an article about 2 hours ago, or a report, saying there's some level of optimism in a Damian Lillard being cleared at some point in these playoffs. However, he at bare minimum needs to come back before game 3, their first game at home. So again, sticking with my prediction for now, Giannis is unbelievable, deserves his flowers, but honestly, guys, I'm not impressed with the front office in Milwaukee's attempt to build a team around him over the past couple years. Giannis deserves better. He was the 3rd best player in the NBA this year by a wide margin. But you can only do so much even as a superstar, and he just doesn't have enough around him to compete in this series. And then, similar to the Western Conference with the top 2 seeds, you got the Celtics, who I imagine are going to be playing the Magic. However, I would not be surprised if the Hawks beat the Magic. The Magic are their own video for themselves at some point. They've had a super brutal year when it comes to injuries, but they just lack offense, and right now, it doesn't look like it's getting any better. So we're going to assume Magic versus Celtics. Celtics sweep them. We'll talk more about the Celtics in the second round of the playoffs as well. But what I will say is the Celtics have been balling as of late. They've also been one of the hottest teams in the NBA. Jaylen Brown's knee is obviously a cause for concern, but the Celtics aren't losing round 1. We'll talk more about them in the preview for round 2. I promise, guys, I know these top teams we haven't covered too much, but like I said, they'll get plenty of run in round 2. Same with Cleveland, whoever they play. The Hawks, the Magic, potentially even the Bulls. They're not losing in anything less than 5 games. I'm going to say a sweep. Oklahoma City, Boston, and Cleveland are not losing in round 1. 5 games max for each of them. They all have had unbelievable seasons. OKC, like I mentioned earlier, 2nd best net rating ever in NBA history behind those 96 Bulls. And Cleveland and Boston both with net ratings above +9, 60+ wins for both of them. I'd be absolutely shocked if these teams don't all make the conference finals. They're just that good this year. And if I had to pick one that could potentially get upset in a playoff series, I'd pick the Cavaliers, maybe against the Pacers. But I think it's going to be a lot of chalk this year, except for that bottom half of the Western Conference. And that does it, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. We're going to try to do NBA playoff recaps maybe twice a week, maybe weekly in the playoffs. We'll see how it goes. But thank you so much for watching this video. And as always, we'll see you on the hardwood.